Pilgrim is a movie that is part of the horror anthology series Into the Dark, where every episode is a full-length film that is based around a different holiday. This one, as you can probably guess, is based on Thanksgiving and was released on November 1st, 2019. Before watching this, I had not too high expectations. I saw a lot of people that hated it and a lot of people that thought it was pretty good. Personally, I thought it was mostly pretty good and I enjoyed watching it. It's definitely not perfect by any means, but then again, nothing really is. So, for horror movies especially, I don't really have high standards. I just enjoy them for what they are. Anyways, let's get into the plot and be warned there are some spoilers here. So this movie is centered around a dysfunctional family. The mom orders a group of Pilgrim reenactors to remind them of their privilege and help them bond with each other. Of course, this is a horror movie, so everything naturally goes wrong. The Pilgrims arrive early, only 2 at first, but then more and more Pilgrims show up. Cody's boyfriend and Cody's mom are murdered by one of the Pilgrims for not being grateful for what they had, I guess. That's kind of the theme of the whole movie. The parents start to get very suspicious, and they end up tortured by the Pilgrims, but they do manage to escape with Cody's help, but then the dad is caught and killed with an axe, and then the mom and the daughter are caught, and they're brought in and forced to prepare the Thanksgiving feast. So it turns out for the feast, the main meal is the dad. Yep. His head is served on a plate and his chest served like a turkey. Very gruesome. The Pilgrims celebrate as the remaining family watch in horror. Although, in an unexpected plot twist, it turns out poison berries were actually snuck into the berry mash, and the Pilgrims, they all start to violently puke blood and die. Then, an intense fight between the mom and a Pilgrim breaks out in the kitchen as Anna's finally able to stab her in the neck and get away. The main Pilgrim guy, Ethan, he somehow survived, the one who started it all. And then in an epic scene at the end, Cody pushes him backwards before finally killing him with an axe. With his last words, he explains why it was all done, to make them be grateful for what they had. Okay, sure, they were a lot more grateful now for their family and for their situation, but anyone would be after being tortured and nearly dying. Clearly all the violence was not necessary, but, well, it's a horror movie, so who's really surprised? I'll briefly go over the characters. Cody is definitely my favorite character. She's both badass and funny, and was the only reasonable one for most of the movie, honestly. She did the most in this movie, and she was a really good character. Shane, the dad, he was obsessed with his work, and while he did seem to change a bit, but, of course, right after he was killed, so he's a decent character, I guess. Anna, the mom, she started it all, and it was kind of her fault, but she didn't really know. She had some good character development, and she got closer to Cody by the end, which was good. Ethan, the main Pilgrim, he was quite an intriguing character. He was both kind of annoying, but also charismatic in a way, and he was definitely very interesting. Tate is the little boy. He doesn't really do that much. He just hides, which is obviously fair considering everything that was happening. And there's more characters, but those are just like the main ones. Music, there wasn't really that much memorable music, but it was interesting how they used like some church hymns in the background of some parts with people singing about being grateful, fit with Thanksgiving and all, and that fits with the Pilgrims' goals and what they're trying to do. And it's kind of funny, the uplifting singing contrasts a lot with the violent and intense scenes, so. Themes in connection to the holiday. So I think it's pretty obvious which themes are present in this movie, especially considering it's Thanksgiving. The whole movie is centered around the Pilgrims doing things because they don't consider the family to be grateful enough for what they have. Yeah, gratitude obviously is the main theme, and the movie shows off both sides of the coin. Yes, you should be grateful for what you have, but also it's okay to be a bit ungrateful at times. Well, unless you happen to invite an insane group of Pilgrims to your house for some reason. But, basically this fits a holiday quite well, although of course this is far from a movie you would want to watch on Thanksgiving with your whole family. I think you can probably figure out why. And then the good and the bad. So before I get to my final thoughts, I want to go over some quick praises and criticisms. This movie was pretty good at representing the holiday, but of course in a gruesome horror way, and it was quite thrilling, and it was very weird, but it had an interesting plot. And then for some criticism, there's definitely a few. I disagree with the people who hate this movie, but some points I do understand, like, why doesn't Cody just run to a neighbor's house and, call the police? She easily could have just ran away and, I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of, plot holes and things that could have happened, things that could have done. And there's no way the neighbors wouldn't be able to hear, all the noise when the parents are being tortured, right? I feel like that would be pretty loud. And I guess you could say the characters aren't that strong either, and they might not be all that likable. But overall, it wasn't really a big deal to me. The movie wasn't great, but I still thought it was pretty good, and it was enjoyable. So, if you don't overthink and overanalyze it, it's kind of fun and enjoyable. Although, I would rewatch this maybe for Thanksgiving, next year, but, horror movies in general are not like the type of movies I'm like, oh, I really want to rewatch this. And usually my favorite movies are like ones I'd be more likely to rewatch, like something like comedy or like action. But like, I do really like horror, but it's not something I would rewatch so much. But maybe for Thanksgiving I could see me rewatching this if I really feel like it. And finally, would I recommend it? I mean, yeah, I guess I would. It's an interesting watch, although it's most definitely not for everyone. Definitely don't watch this if you hate gore. Like, just if you can't stand gore, absolutely do not watch this. But like, if you go in with the mindset it's just kind of a cheesy horror movie, it's not really meant to be taken that seriously, you might enjoy it. So that's all my thoughts on this movie. It did surpass my expectations a bit, and while it was weird, it was still mostly enjoyable. My final score is 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more holiday movie reviews.